So this is going to be a vendor panel. We're going to talk about just some trends we're seeing and you are all seeing in the AI space. You've heard a lot of presentations where I don't know there's been a single one that has not mentioned AI many times. I tried not to mention AI intentionally, but yeah, I couldn't help myself, and I just lost count of how many times I mentioned it. And I know a lot of you did too as well. So let's first do some quick introductions. We have a panel here. Some you may have met or remember from the previous sessions. Tanya Gonzalez from Infor. She was the first presentation of the day after the opening. Gil from Priority is here. So Gil, thank you for being here. Scott Bickley from Infotech Research Group. They put in my notes ITRG, and I keep saying IT Research Group, but it's Infotech Research Group. And Craig Sullivan from NetSuite. And then right next to me is Dan Houdek from Epicor. So Epicor, Infor, Priority, Infotech, and NetSuite. So lot. This is a really unique thing to see all these vendors here in the same room, same stage. So far, no one's killing each other. They seem like they're getting along okay, but let's see if we can change that.
We're probably all having the same problems.
I'm putting my money on Tanya. I think Tanya's going to win the arm wrestling match or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So just to start, and I'll open it up. I'll call on one of you for each of these, and then let the rest of you chime in as I go through these questions here that I just lost on my. Here we go.
Interesting choice of chairs, by the way. It's like an endurance competition.
Yes, it's like the.
No, we at Priority were up for any challenge. It's the others I'm sorry about that.
It's like an episode of Survivor, like a reality show. To see who falls first. Let's talk about AI, and I'll start with you, Tanya, just because you presented on this earlier today. But to start, maybe talk a little bit about summarizing some of what you talked about this morning. But how is Infor building AI into its what are some of the most common use cases you're seeing so far of AI actually being used in the Infor Cloud Suite right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to kick it off. So at Infor, we actually have a combination of solutions. So on one side, we have embedded use cases that go directly into our Cloud Suite, so ERPs. And some of those most common use cases that we run across is product recommendations. I mean, let's just think about like a customer base, right? If you're on Amazon, right, and you look at your shopping cart, you have all those recommendations. This goes with this. Have you considered the other product? Similar case on our Cloud Suites and ERPs, right? So when they're going after our customers, in this case, B2B space, and then the trained resources that need to learn from all those hundreds and thousands of SKUs, it comes in very handy. So that's some of the common use cases that we are seeing across some of our industries. Obviously, healthcare has its own specifics as well. This is where we see some of the things coming in. Oh, I need to forecast, make sure I have all those syringes in time, need to make sure I have inventory optimization. So that also comes in play as well. And then when we think about our use cases, it's really maturity curve. So what are the things that we could put in embedded because they don't require so much services engagement? Versus what are the use cases where you actually need a lot of hand-holding and we validate them. You can't build AI in a vacuum. You really need to make sure that you have to go back to this data validated across the customers. And so when we think about AI, we really see an evolution of them, just starting off with the individual customer, actually validating that it works across a combination of customers, and then we put it into our embedded offerings. And still keep on going, keep on growing. Those use cases keep engaging.
Interesting. Gil, what are your thoughts?
So in terms of AI use cases, we think about it in three buckets or categories. One is the AI assistant, which is basically helping you to do your job. If it's searching in a more of a natural language kind of interaction, like Eldad showed earlier. It can be things like drafting an email. AI can draft it for you and change the tone. I think we saw some of that this morning as well. So that's more on the assistance level, and this already exists. It's out there. We saw it this morning. Then the next level is the AI advisor, which can actually, here the intelligence kicks in. It can notice some anomalies, see some stuff, tell you, hey, pay attention here, pay attention there. And the third level, by the way, the advisor piece is coming out like in the next version, so it's already here. The next level is the agentic. It's harnessing AI in order to do more sophisticated cross-process stuff for you, actually do your job in a way. And this is not yet here, but this is where we see the market is heading.
Interesting. How about you, Dan, with Epicor? How are you seeing AI being baked into the Epicor product line right now?
So we are embedding it across our product line. Our users tend to be pragmatic, so they're not asking like, give me AI, right? They're trying to solve a challenge. And so we're looking at it to go, okay, what are those quick win challenges that we can solve for them, right? We're not going to go shoot for the moon. So things like forecasting, inventory control, predictive analytics, those are the kind of use cases that our customers are asking for quickly. So we're implementing those types of things. Ironically, we have a knowledge agent, which it's like, hey, yeah, we need to put this out there for our customers. And it's been getting like great love and adoption. And we had a customer who actually is a very long-term customer. He said like it's having a second brain in ERP now, right? Because of the knowledge that we can now use with AI. So again, like the use cases that we see are the ones that customers can get value really quick, right? And we're looking to embed them, whether it's agentic AI, whether it's large language models. We're there to help our customers kind of the best value that they can get out of what we have today.
Right. So. And now, Craig, I want to ask you a little bit different spin on that same question, though. So with NetSuite being a native cloud SaaS solution and focusing on the mid-market, how are things different in the cloud environment and or with the mid-market as far as how you're seeing AI being used by NetSuite and its customers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was formulating my response to your first question.
And I decided to change the question. I did not tell you I was going to.
You switched it up, but you've helped me, I think. So thank you. Yeah, so I think from our perspective, we are cloud native. We were born in the cloud, if you will, 27 years ago, and so we've only ever thought about what it means to be running a business using cloud-based systems. Fast forward to being acquired by Oracle 2016, 2017. And not only then did we have access to the Oracle database, which we were always using from the very beginning, but all of the other infrastructure and the investments that Oracle has been making around scalable architecture and more recently the AI components. And so, from that perspective, we sort of see it as our customers having a leg up, if you will, into embracing not just the cloud, but now the cloud with AI on this very powerful unified data set, which is at the heart of the suite from the very beginning. And so, the way that we approach these conversations, and these are conversations, and I think my colleagues up here will sort of agree with this, they're definitely evolving as our customers and our end users are hearing, seeing, learning about AI at events like this, and then asking the questions about how might that help me with various aspects of our business. Our approach to that is to just make the system work better because now it has the AI as part of the fabric of it built in to how we're solving those problems and how we're helping customers solve those problems, from things like recommendations and supply chain optimization through to authoring and making proposals as to how best to solve those solutions. So we're looking at it, and I think that's sort of the difference here is perhaps that we're looking at intrinsically from the ground up, from the infrastructure up, as a virtue of the journey that we've been on.
Right. Now, Scott, Infotech, much like Third Stage, is vendor neutral. I know you guys have customers that are using all these vendors and even some vendors that aren't in the room here today. From your perspective, not coming at it from a technology perspective, but just more from your end customers, how much of the AI demand is being driven by vendors versus what you think customers actually want?
Yeah, I'd say it's 90% plus being driven by vendors. So, I mean, if you look at the ecosystem, I look at it like a pyramid. At the top is like NVIDIA, Broadcom, some of your big chip suppliers. You look at NVIDIA's revenue, and maybe 5 to 7 customers comprise about 50% of their revenue, which has been astronomically, growing. Well, I should say it's growing exponentially. They have a vested interest in pushing these models out, their investments in these data centers and what they're building out. And their customers are, the vendors on this stage, along with dozens of others. The sheer scale of this investment has pulled everyone along with it. So, you don't have a choice if you're an application provider, but to be investing in AI and to find a way to build that into your product set. And if you're going to make those investments, you're now having to pay for access to those foundation models. You're now having to pay for data scientists, AI engineers, all of the infrastructure and people that go into building the products. So naturally, that's going to be a pull to the end user. And I think from the end user perspective, it's very tempting to, kind of get caught up in the FOMO of the AI hype cycle, right? And so,
100%.
but if you think about it, you have a choice of either going out and trying to directly build your own AI solutions, which a small minority of companies have the resources to do so on multiple levels. You could go out and try to do these tuck-in solutions. I think I read yesterday there's 498 AI unicorn startups right now, which is insane. The problem is 90% of those will be out of business within 5 years, and the rest will be acquired by many of the vendors on this stage, along with others. So really, if you're an end user consumer, you're going to be consuming AI from one of the vendors you're probably already buying from. So to me, you can slow down a little bit and take time to ensure that things in your contracts are addressing liability, addressing IP, addressing all of the things that are not currently being addressed for AI in your contracts with those vendors. Make sure you understand your use cases. Make sure you understand what it's going to take to prepare your data, all of the things to get ready to consume AI in a productive manner that can add, efficiency and hopefully revenues at some point to your business.
Yeah, that's interesting. Gil.
I feel to your question that customers look at AI a little bit like a sushi. They want it, but they wonder if it's not too raw.
Right.
And
they want to know what's in it. Like, what exactly is that I'm getting?
So it's, I think it's our burden as vendors to show them coming back to your first question, to show them use cases that make sense. They happen to be powered by AI, but they don't really care, right? They see a feature that they like. When I go to demos and Eldad is showing them how he's doing the search with natural language, they really like it. Now the technology is the enabler, but they like what they see as a feature. So once we have the use cases that make sense, customers connect with them.
What about, Dan, on the implementation side of things, how is AI affecting implementations in general, the way that either the end customer or even your own people implement technology? And if so, what are some of those changes you're seeing?
Yes, I think the from that standpoint, right? One, if it's done right, implementation. We have tools that are actually helping our customers migrate, right, or from the cloud over or from on-prem into the cloud. So we are using AI in those tools to assess their legacy systems, determine kind of like what the best models are, and to easily migrate them over to those customizations over into our cloud aspect. So, that's one aspect of how we're using AI in our consulting services to help our customers migrate. I would say the implementation within customers, we embed AI into our systems, right? And we use natural language. We try and, as I mentioned before, we have engineers that as we build our solutions, they're on the shop floors. They're learning how our customers use the system. So as they build it and our customers implement it, it's natural to them, right? There isn't this, AI in essence should be almost like a hidden tool, right? Like you go in there, you use it, and it's an extension. I don't want to call it a co-pilot. I'll call it it's an assistant, right? That helps our customers actually do more without having to worry about and be a data analyst or really kind of be retrained in how to use the system. So I do believe AI is helping in that aspect of implementation because it's making it easier for our customers to adopt AI quicker.
Right. So. How about you, Tanya, in the Infor ecosystem? How are you seeing AI, or are you seeing AI impact how customers are implementing and or adopting ERP technology?
Absolutely. So I think one of the examples I'm going to use is that some of our ERP screens in the past, but think about forecasting. You go in there, it's a nice chart, and then you have a drop down of different models. This is a model you could try out. This is a model you could try out. And you just sit in there as an end user and you pick all those models and try to find the best answer. What we are seeing with AI coming to the picture, it runs all of these things for you in parallel. And based on your data shape, picks the right thing to expose. So it's kind of less time that end users now have to spend looking through all of those different choices that they have that they're not necessarily sometimes equipped or have time to equip. like what is the best one to choose, but we already run those things for them so that it gives them an answer. And then, I mean, on the productivity side of things, I think you mentioned some nice examples. Instead of starting from like a blank page, you really have somewhere there going, oh, can I write down this, job description? That comes in handy, right? Can I modify those things? Can I translate things that are a lot faster? I mean, we serve customers across the globe, and that has really been transformational for us to really them coming in and say, oh, I could send this exact same message to different languages to target to my customers. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely see that come into place so that they spend less time picking the right tools or configurations, but actually focusing what is kind of the best outcomes that we could give to them. They could go on and actually spend more time on other value-added tasks.
Right, right. How about in the priority space?
I'm thinking in the context of change management, we talked a lot about change management today. And once we have AI, even the AI assistant at this point, it makes change easier. There's less to learn. The system is much more forthcoming. I think it's part of a trend of consumerization, how to pronounce, but easy to understand of business systems. People want systems that they get, that nobody taught us how to use Facebook or WhatsApp or Candy Crush, right? We just went in and it was immediately clear what we need to do and how to set it up and how to make it work. So business environment is a bit more sophisticated than lining up suites, but still there's a lot of room for simplification. And I think that's what the market wants, and AI will definitely help us get there.
Yeah. And then the NetSuite space there, are you seeing AI impact how customers are using software, implementing the software?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fascinating because of course we're all in the technology side of the house here, and so we're solving similar problems and sort of seeing lots of similar things. I think the one thing that we have seen is that with the rise of ChatGPT, if you will, people that come to us in the first instance and express an interest in what can NetSuite do, they're coming better informed. They've used these tools to help them understand what's out there in the landscape. You're doing more research before you pick up the phone or interact with your vendor or your potential vendor, which is great. It speeds up the conversation, allows us to get down to the specifics of where we can help. We're also doing things on the NetSuite side again. Perhaps one of the advantages of being cloud native, helping customers understand what they're not using today and how they might benefit. It's true. I think in pretty much every technology product that we use, me included, there are for every feature that you are using, there's probably 5 or 6 that have been implemented that you didn't read the release notes or weren't paying attention to the marketing event, and so you don't know about it. How many people use the tap button on the back of their iPhones? I don't. So I don't know if anyone. It's a feature that you know about. If you didn't know about,
I had no idea.
Is there a button?
you can tell it double tap on the back of the phone and it'll take a photo. You can tell it exactly what you want to do. It's true.
Thank God for
But
you
it
guys
comes-
to educate us on technology.
And you thought this
I wasn't
session would bring
expecting that
value.
to be everyone nods their heads. But actually seeing how they can take advantage of other aspects of our suite to help them, with a particular business challenge that they have, and how that, what the results of that might be as in terms of what they're using today, and if they were to, in some cases, just start using this new model that they're already paying for that they haven't gotten around to implement yet. And then, it was mentioned earlier on today about natural language queries to help people understand how to set things up and how to navigate the product. All of these capabilities, we're all doing some flavor of, it sounds like, and seeing how our customers are responding to that. And so that's, the customers are benefiting from AI, whether they realize it or not under the covers, because we're building better solutions for them with it, or actually in the front end because they're interacting with the system in that natural language way that makes it much faster for them to get the information that they need.
Right. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and I'm sure we'll come back to AI. We'll find a way back to AI. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem. But I am going to shift gears, and I want to start with you, Scott, on this question. I want to tie this back to Jan Bond's presentation earlier today. He talked about composable ERP, microservices, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said it much more eloquently than I could, but he's essentially saying that he sees a future where ERP is shrinking a bit. It's not everything to everyone, and there's an opportunity now to use different types of technologies to not replace ERP, but to augment what ERP can do. And I want to get the vendor's opinion on this too. I feel like you have a right to rebut him or to share your thoughts on this. But I want to get your sort of vendor neutral perspective on what you thought of that presentation or that school of thought in general, and how you think it fits into where we're heading in the future with the ERP software space.
This seems to be one of those topics that it vacillates like a pendulum from one side to the other. It's all in one suite platform, or it's no platform. Everything's composable. Everything's bespoke. I don't think that there's a one right answer for that. Personally, I think most organizations would benefit from getting as much of their functionality fulfilled through a single vendor solution in an ideal world. Now, if you're taking a core platform and you're just bolting on 15 acquisitions that are poorly integrated, and you could cause more problems than you're solving. Whereas if you're a cloud native solution and you're building things organically, you probably have a much higher chance of making a more seamless and extensible platform in that regards. The problem I have with composable ERP is the complexity involved and the skill sets required to bring in-house to build and manage that and maintain it, right? Because those are highly, you're starting to talk about microservice-based architecture, then you better have some deep wallets to buy the right people to come in there and maintain those systems. And then you have the integration issues to worry about and everything on top of that, because everything's going to basically be bespoke. I think anything's possible in this technology world when it comes to ERP, but that seems to be at least historically a more complex solution to build and maintain than something more out of the box, I would say, for the broader swath of the end user population.
Especially a small mid-market company.
Yes,
they just don't have the big IT staff to support that. And
No.
I think it's a good reminder too that no matter what strategy you pursue or what direction you go with your ERP deployments, everything's a trade-off, right? It's like, okay, maybe let's just say the microservice path is a better route because it gives you more flexibility and a more competitive advantage potentially than you would just from a sole ERP system. But now you've increased your cost on the IT maintenance side. You're going to have to hire some people to maintain all that and that sort of thing. I'm going to come back to you guys for sure, because all three of you, the Priority, Infor, and Epicor, you've taken historically somewhat of a best of breed approach because you've got multiple systems that can solve different problems. So I'll come back to you in a second. But I want to start with you, Gil, with NetSuite, because I find it super fascinating what you guys are doing, because you guys have always been sort of the epitome of SaaS, cloud native, and providing a very standardized suite of products. But now you guys have these third-party apps that are being developed on the NetSuite platform, which is not new, but it's relatively new for you guys, and it runs counter to, not in a bad way, but just runs counter to how you guys started. How are you guys viewing this then? I mean, is this your way of allowing your pendulum to swing, to vacillate that direction, or how do you see this evolving?
It's a great question, and I'm going to say thanks for being my new best friend here on the panel this afternoon. We've always had that sort of single system, unified suite perspective as being the best way to run the business, because then you know where the data is, the system understands the data, you can generate deeper, richer insights from a system that understands the context and all of those things. And at the same time, and actually we did do this very early on, which is developed what we describe as the Suite Cloud platform, which is the extensible set of capabilities so that you can configure and customize and extend our suite in the first instance in whichever way you need to as a customer. So we make it low code, no code, became the terminology for this, right? So we have those various options, but an end user with the appropriate permissions can add fields to records, can add new records, can create hybrid reports, consolidating all of that data together to get the insights that they need for their respective business function. And that same technology then is used to do more extensive customization and, to your point, for partners that participate in what we call the Suite Cloud Developer Network. And they build Suite apps, and they do that, and they deploy that on our cloud infrastructure as extensions to the Suite. And we've got 650 plus partners today, 700 and plus Suite apps as part of the Built for NetSuite offering. that are doing everything from horizontal solutions, plugging in external tax engines and document signing capabilities, as well as very deep verticalized configurations and customizations, if you will, of the solution that are in essence managed by and maintained by the partner, but leveraging the NetSuite infrastructure so that there's that consistent availability, consistent experience, and common data set across the entirety of the business. So we feel that it's the best of both worlds in a way, because we're keeping all of the data together, so it's easier to manage and easier to understand and audit and control, while at the same time providing that flexibility that we know every business needs. And then the last piece of that, just sorry, before everyone else jumps in, is that we also have our connector strategy, which allows connection to third-party systems, because we know that in a IT stack there is almost always more than one system.
Yeah.
Actually, there is always more than one system. It's not just NetSuite; it's a Microsoft product, for desktop or spreadsheets or whatever that may be. And then the more recent thing that we just did is announced our capabilities for AI connectivity with a new MCP server capability. So we're sort of stepping out into that world now, so that if you are using ChatGPT or Claude or your LLM of choice, you can now interact with your NetSuite data through that agentic connectivity toolset, so that you're again accessing with natural language, but still looking at that common data set in a combined, unified way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And Tanya, I want to come back to you, and I'll come back to Gil and Dan as well. But with Infor, Jan also referred to this earlier today about how Infor has grown through acquisition, including his company Bond got acquired by Infor. You guys have M3, Sightline, now CloudSuite. So you've historically had multiple solutions that you've maintained. But from a vendor perspective, I've got to think that's hard to maintain different systems with all the R&D getting spread thin, and you don't want to be competing against each other, with the same with different applications. Where do you see the pendulum going? Do you think the pendulum's going towards a single, like with CloudSuite, a single solution, or do you think it's going to settle in the middle where you still might have multiple solutions for different industries or different use cases, or where do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of forced into it, as you were saying, because we have all of our cloud suites specialized by industry. So we had to build a platform that goes in the middle and connects, so that we have a user experience as a login. They have not just their core cloud suite, but their additional applications that they're using that go hand in hand with the ERP system, that we have analytics that goes on top of it, that we have AI, that we have all this consolidation happening data fabric space. So for us, it was kind of, we were forced by working across all of those different R&D teams to have the platform as this place that kind of unites or connects pieces together. And I mean, the platform itself kind of works as a combination of those different microservices. If you think about it, the moment that we get all this data, it comes together. We could apply analytics on top of it. We could apply AI on top of it. We could use a combination of the different techniques. We could put it back the cloud suite. And what we notice, what works well for us, is that thinking about our end users, so their roles, what they're really trying to accomplish in a day, so that they don't go through different screens. They have like a workspace. They start their day, they log into the portal, and they have a workspace. And this workspace tells them, here's some of the alerts, here's the things that you need to focus on. And those are the pieces of different technologies, from process mining, analytics, from AI, are kind of coming in together into one single space to help them with their day-to-day challenges. So answering your question, I think the truth is always somewhere in the middle, and we were forced to do that just because we had all the different applications to start with.
Yeah, it seems like it's more than just applications now. It's almost like a platform, and that's sort of what you didn't use the word platform, I don't think, with NetSuite, but it sounds like that's essentially what you're doing. Is you've got this core platform with connectors and apps you can plug in, and then same with you guys. It's a platform
That's
where you
what
can
we
mix
call
and
it.
match
It's
different.
a cloud industry, cloud platform.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant marketing. That's why you guys are marketing. I'm not. How about you, Dan? What's Epicor's view on this?
What they said, no. It's similar, right? I mean, particularly when you're dealing with mid-market companies, right? They need to have the flexibility to transform and grow as they need. So having a composable type of infrastructure, right? Being able to, for instance, like inventory planning and, can I bolt that on, right? Do I have the right APIs to connect to that when I need it and grow is what our users need, right? So I would definitely say there's a your ERP system, your core ERP system sits at that core, but you do need to be able to have those applications that connect, whether it's to a third party, whether it's to your own apps. Someone even mentioned the community, right? Like building the community, start thinking about the supply chain. You need to be able to connect to the solutions, right, that your supply chain's using, and that will become even a bigger intelligent fabric, right, as you build it out. So I would definitely say it's a mixed breed that you do have to have a core set of solutions that kind of out of the box that you are able to run with that our customers can benefit from, but composability is kind of key, whether it's in the app or the agents that you roll out, right? We didn't want to mention AI, but he started it, so
Everyone take a drink.
that's right. Yeah. So just being able to have that flexibility within your system to grow as needed. So yes, we definitely support kind of that view.
Now, Gil, with Priority, you guys have had. First of all, you guys do a lot with distribution, retail, and some manufacturing as well. Other industries I know too, but how you approach this diversity of industries that you play in and the different the different systems that you have. How have you guys navigated that?
So the approach we took is also a platform approach where we basically give ourselves or our clients or our partners a set of tools like Play-Doh that you can configure, customize, integrate as you see fit. And this allowed us, as a vendor, as a software vendor, to also develop some vertical specific solutions that are using the same platform tools. So retail is a good example of that. With the same extension tools and integration and some systems that we acquired or partnered with from the ecosystem, we built a solution that caters for the needs of retailers. Partners of ours built solutions for other verticals, for real estate, for agriculture, for hospitality, and the list goes on and on and on. Again, all using the same tools, the same platform tools, which is the way to go. Otherwise, you could redevelop everything from scratch all the time. Openness, I think, is key. To the point Scott made earlier about, smaller organization cannot afford probably to have a composable ERP and now connect it with 200 systems around it. True, very much true. But we need to remember that a small organization can be a big organization tomorrow. And we don't want to pose on them decisions, okay, now you have to redo the whole thing from scratch. We want systems that can grow with the businesses, enable their growth, support their growth, and cater for their needs as they grow.
Right. Now, Scott, coming back to you and shifting gears again, if we talk about implementation, we've talked a lot about in this session or in these workshops so far, we've talked quite a bit about what some of the success factors are. We've talked about change management, strategy, all kinds of different stuff. How would you summarize what you think is most important for your customers to be successful in their transformations, their ERP implementations in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake we see, and I don't think it's any secret to anyone at this event, is just the lack of upfront preparation for the implementation, right? So, a lot of over-reliance on the vendor to steer them to a system integrator, over-reliance on the system integrator to give them a statement of work that is going to be, fulsome and really cover off in enough detail all the different components of the implementation. More, and I think the paper is getting worse. I literally see screenshots of resource allocation estimates for SOWs that are illegible. You can't even read them. And then you say, well, did you go through a phase 0 process? Have you gone through this advanced planning? How did you help inform the implementer to come up with these numbers? And there's nothing there, right? So that means these numbers have just been based on some semblance of historical projects that the vendor's probably done, and then a lot of guesswork. But it's a recipe for change order hell. And so I think, the other component to the upfront planning is really the planning internally for the organization. You touched on it. It's program management. It's having an executive sponsor that understands your business and understands enough about technology to be an effective advocate for the project, the ability to prepare the organization for what's coming. You know, I can't tell you how many times I ask, how are you going to staff this project? You know, you're going to have to pull your best people out of the business to run the project. You're still going to have to run the business, and they don't have an answer. You know, data is a huge issue. You can almost guarantee that if they haven't done any upfront work, you're going to run into that. You start working on the data migration, the data integration, and you're going to hit a roadblock. And as we know, then you have to keep the meter running on the consultants, or you're going to lose the resources while you take whatever 6 weeks, 6 months, however long to fix the data. That's how these projects just start to grow exponentially. And I mean, that's just off the top of my head. I mean, there's so many ways these projects can go wrong. I think if you're not taking upfront, you know, in many cases, at least 6 months to plan what you're going to do for the project, you're kind of just preparing, or you're defaulting into failure mode.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had a psychology, not a psychologist, but someone who had studied psychology that was on my podcast one time, and she talked about how human behavior, there's something called action bias, and people feel like they have to take action. And if I'm doing my phase 0 planning, I'm not taking action. Like, these guys want me to sign a contract, and they want to start designing and building the software that I can see and touch and feel, but the planning, I can't. I don't feel like I'm taking action. And why take those 6 months if I can spend that 6 months designing and building stuff instead?
It's counterintuitive. It's like you have to go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
So, you know, I used to play a lot of tournament poker, and it's like, you know, if someone's showing strength at the table, you know, there's a good chance they're probably bluffing, right? They want me to buy into that, you know, oh, I'm scared of this hand. It's very counterintuitive, and it's a hard sell to executive management a lot of time to say, look, you know, if we don't take the time to do these things the right way, it's going to cost us, you know, downstream in both implementation time and definitely in money. But I think in order to make that sale upstream, you have to be able to articulate what that looks like, right? So you have to be able to explain the why behind, you know, what you're asking for. It's going to help to get help early. So, you know, firms like yours and others that can come in and kind of, you know, help you map out that process and map out your pitch upstream. That's a critical piece of the puzzle, because most of the time, you know, people are running the business. How many times, hopefully, do you do one of these big ERP implementations? You know, maybe, you know, if you're lucky, once in your career. You know, if you're unlucky, you know, 2 or 3 times for the average worker. Like, there's obviously you guys who love it and live it, and that's what you do. But most people hate it. And it's very disruptive, and it's painful. And it's like, if I have my job, all of these things are laid out, and now you're telling me everything's going to change. You know, that's not going to make me a happy camper as, you know, as a worker. And you have to prepare for that up front.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, those are really great points. And you said some things earlier in your session, the Welcome to the Jungle session, that really caught my eye, Eric. The why is really important. You know, you're not implementing a new ERP system because you want to implement a new ERP system. You're doing it because you've seen something that's not going well enough, or something that's getting in your way with what you want to achieve for the business. And so you're identifying a new system, and you're going to go through this journey, let's say, through this journey to get to an outcome which allows you to achieve that why, that, you know, that intent that you started this process for. And so it is really important to have your best people. It is, you know, got to make sure that you've got the time for that. And then the other thing that I saw on your slides earlier on is that implementing new software is not itself going to fix the problems that you embrace in this process. You know, look for. But the reality is that whatever your business process is today, it is almost, at least to some degree, the result of how your current systems work. It's not because that's how you would have decided to do it if you had, you know, a blank slate at the beginning of whatever evolution or new initiative you had. Most recently, it's because that's how your current setup actually requires you to do this thing. And so thinking that taking that and putting it, in our case, in the cloud, on the suite, leveraging AI in another system in exactly the same way as you're currently doing it is not going to help you achieve that why. So holding on to why you're doing this, it's not just because you want to have implemented a new ERP system on your resume. It's because there's a goal that you're looking to achieve for the business. Right. And driving to that at all points along the way.
I want to call it what Scott also I think, mentioned just about preparing for the change, right? So you mentioned the processes, right? A lot of this isn't just the technology, right? You need, we're dealing with tariffs, we're dealing with economic issues, right? Change is a normal now. And I think to your point, like, you're not going to rip and replace your ERP system out every time it changes, right? But you need to prepare your people, your culture, your processes, your governance to adapt to that change. Like, we know it's going to happen. It's coming. So, have those kind of pieces in place besides the technology. I think that's going to better prepare you, right, as you implement kind of your initial solution.
Yeah.
So
Now, Gil, let me ask a follow-up to that. So Scott's saying that I should spend up to 6 months preparing and getting ready, defining the why, all the stuff these guys have talked about so far. But you've got a guy working for you, let's say, that's going to get a pretty decent commission check if he can get that contract signed today, not 6 months from now. What do you do? What do I do?
So first, to relate to the previous point, it reminded me the story that they ask, how did God create the world in just 6 days? I mean, the skies and the seas and the mountains and the animals and the plants, all that in 6 days? It's easy. He didn't have any legacy.
Right, nothing to change.
Unfortunately, in our environment, we don't really get to do greenfields, right? We always have legacy. And that legacy, someone needs to understand, know very well, and then come and lead the change. And I sometimes see companies hiring people from the outside to lead the project. That's not going to work. You have to have somebody from the inside that knows the legacy, knows the current state, understands the why behind the current state, not just the why we're changing, and has the respect of the organization. So when he comes in to promote the change, it will resonate with the team. I think that's, we talked a lot about leadership and the change management. It's the kind of leader that you choose that I see as the common denominator between successful and failing projects. Right. How do I hold my horses that want to sign the contract?
Yeah, and it may not, I fully acknowledge that may not be a fair question, but I think it's worth calling it out to the audience here that there is a conflict here.
And these are situations that we cope with every day. One way, and we do this sometimes with customers, especially in the more, let's say, complex or larger projects, we do scoping. We don't yet run to implementation. We don't yet run to, okay, sign this contract and the 100 licenses or whatever. We say we're now focusing on scoping. We'll bring you the people that we know how to ask the questions and what questions to ask. We'll work with you to map everything that is going on and what needs to change. And later on, we'll talk about solutions and licenses and all this good stuff. We have enough patience to go through this process and take our customers with us through this process, and then follow with a larger scale.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I think that's a good process to go through. And I think, to be fair, none of you guys are direct salespeople. They're making commission on closing deals. And if anyone here signs a contract, you're probably not going to get a big commission check just off that. But human behavior being what it is, I don't care who the vendor is, the bigger company you are and the bigger your deal is for that vendor, the more likely you're going to get weird behavior. You're going to get a guy who can literally make his entire year on your deal. It's either that or he might get fired. So you're going to, and I'm serious, like they might get fired if they don't close that one deal. So you get this erratic, weird behavior that is not in your best interest. But at the same time, it's like, I get why they're doing what they're doing. But you as a decision maker in your company have to look past that and say, okay, I feel bad for the guy if he gets fired, but it's not right for us. We have to do what's right for us as a business because I don't want to get fired. So, I think that's the way to look at that and just to navigate some of the conflicts of interest that are inherent in the system. This isn't a vendor thing. This is a industry human behavior thing. But what are your thoughts, Tanya, just on implementation success? Like what are the keys to success that you see most helpful for your customers?
Yeah, and I'll probably second on what Scott was saying. I think what we notice sometimes in some of those implementations is like very IT-centric, and IT comes in and they run the show, but they forget the business on the loop, and business gets involved when it's already all in the works. Whereas the reality of the things, what works is that you engage the business from early on, like you're saying, taking them out from some of those critical processes so they're involved. and they're bought into it. And then they're the ones who will be trained, right? And the rest of the organization, so they come and bring this change. So for us, what really worked is making sure that we have not just the IT, but the business in the loop from the very beginning. And then, of course, data. Yeah. Talking about a lot about data. How do we bring it all together, making sure that this data is exactly kind of meeting use cases that you're trying to address. And I think just a little bit about the time-wise, right? It's not going to happen overnight. So what can we do now to start bringing the value? And so if you start flowing this data and putting it in some sort of data lake, wherever you're going to put it, you could start applying AI on this right now. You don't have to have all of your ERP screens up and running. You could actually start providing value to them before that. And so I think that's how we help to mitigate for some of the things. So don't think about it being years away, but the moment that we start flowing this data, you could start getting the benefit now, 90 and 60 days, but whatever, starting with those quick wins.
Yeah, makes total sense. Let's look to the future. And Gil, I'm going to start with you just because I asked you the most difficult question. I'll start with the easier open-ended one for to kind of close out the discussion here. But when you think ahead to, say, 5 years from now in the enterprise technology space, what do you see happening? What do you think? What are the things that you see on the horizon? Whether it was related to AI or composable ERP or some trend we don't even know about yet. Like, what do you see?
How about I don't know?
That's a reality none of us do. But what's your guess?
I think nowadays the pace of change in technology and the pace that technology evolves is by far faster than what business can do and what us as software vendors can adapt. So we are chasing the technology, right? We spend our days scratching our head thinking, how can we harness this wonderful technology that is out there into something practical, something that people can use in their day-to-day? And I think we are just scratching the surface now. And as we do that, technology continues to evolve very fast. So I think the most honest answer will probably be, I have no idea, I really don't.
That's a good answer.
I think it's a fast-moving thing. I'm sure that we'll see by far more AI playing a much bigger role in the business applications. I know the famous quote that there will not be business applications anymore. I guess you all heard that, right? From the CEO of Microsoft, that this was his vision. There's no business applications, it will be only data and agents flying out there and doing your work. So I don't know that we'll get there in 5 years, maybe 50. But I think this is the direction. This is the North Star that we're heading towards.
Yeah. Now, do you like to bet, Dan?
Do I like to bet?
Are you better? I'm just if you
Not in general, just on this one.
just in general. I'm like, if you were to put money down on a trend or a change in the market, what would it be?
Flying cars.
Yeah.
No.
Back to the
Still
future.
waiting for that, yeah. I would say zero time to value, honestly, with ERP. So if you start looking at where AI is going and you start training your models very much more industry specific, as a lot of us are, right? And you start training it on role specific. When your customer ends up getting your initial, ERP, right? It should be ready out of the box to implement and start driving value. So what we call is like zero time to value, right? ERP used to be kind of measured on how fast you could implement, right? And how fast you could actually kind of get in there and do stuff. And I think the eventual, measurement KPI is going to be kind of like, zero time to, outcome, right? So how fast can you start getting the outcome and the value out of your ERP? And I see AI and the agents that we're rolling out are going to drive that, right? So you're going to get to a point where ERP is I don't want to say it's easy to implement, but it's out of the box, go, like you're ready to go and run. So
Yeah, hopefully more adaptable.
yes,
Flexible as well.
exactly, yes.
Yeah. How about you, Tanya? Where do you see ERP in general, and or just within the Infor world? Where do you see ERP headed in the future?
Well, we invest in a lot of time and effort into agents, so it's better be good. So I want them to come to life in 5 years and definitely help us in this day-to-day tasks. Have the orchestrators that can do simple actions for us with a human in the loop, but human, instead of doing this mundane, redundant tasks, actually doing a lot more value-adding activities. It's, to me, it's almost like Maslow's self-actualization. You come to work and you're happy to be here. You actually accomplish something and not just look through the list of the spreadsheet or the columns that you have in your ERP. So we're betting a lot on agents, and I hope better in 5 years, it better be good.
You hope we're there, yeah.
Yeah.
So that maybe it's not 50 years out. Yeah, maybe it's a lot
Oh,
sooner
yeah.
than. How about you, Scott? Where do you see the world of enterprise tech headed?
Probably not a lot different than what it is today. Don't think you're going to see.
That's a boring answer.
Well, you know what?
Green.
I'm by far not an AI naysayer, but I would definitely characterize myself as an AI realist.
Yeah.
You're not going to see artificial general intelligence. I really don't like the terms we apply to a lot of AI, like reasoning models and chain of thought. And guess what? It doesn't think. It's not reasoning. It's not a human. Go ask ChatGPT 10 questions, and there's a good chance you're going to get some wrong answers to at least a couple of those 10 questions. And this is like the most basic use case you can apply.
Or ask it again, and you'll get different answers.
You'll
the second
definitely
time.
get a different answer, especially if you rephrase the question just ever so slightly. You're not going to see autonomous multi-agent workflows that decide on behalf of your business for critical business decisions. I don't see that in the next 5 years at all. I do see a refined version of what we have today. I think you're going to see models that are more fine-tuned, that you can put guardrails against to defend against some of the bias and some of the hallucinations. Another word I don't really like, but hallucinations. That you can also have it more targeted in its training on your industry data and your specific company data. And you can definitely go into what I would consider hyper automation for a lot of level 1 workflows and take a lot of the work that's done by people today and definitely automate that and definitely raise that up where the human in the loop is able to oversee a much broader scope of work than what you can do today in a more manual basis. So I think it's definitely going to be a transformative force from a productivity and an efficiency standpoint. Can be for revenue generation as well, depending on how it's targeted with marketing and sales enablement and things like that. But it's, I hear people say it's going to be bigger than the internet. And I'm like, I don't see that being the case in the near future. I'm not a technologist by trade. I'm not a futurist. I can't say what's going to happen 20 years from now, but it's pretty safe to think 5 years from now, it's a more refined, elegant version of what we have today.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that you have to be careful of these grand predictions. I don't know, for those of you that were in Emma Roloff's session, she pulled up a quote from Constellation Research where they said, if you're not investing in AI right now, you won't exist in 5 years. And I'm like, okay, come on, that is not true. I could be operating a pen and paper and still be in business in 5 years. It's probably not advisable, but it could happen. So anyway, it's stuff like that. I think it's fun to look to the future, but I think you guys are, which one of you said, Gil, you said you don't know. I don't know either. I like to pretend I do. I like to guess what I think will happen, but the reality is none of us really know. But it is interesting to see like what you guys are doing to advance technology and advance where we're going. How about you, Craig? Don't want to forget about you. Where do you see the world's headed with ERP? And
I kind of agree with everyone. That's sort of I think there's truth sort of in the midst of all of those, or at least a solid prediction that we could kind of come together. It's gonna get better. Technology is going to get better. It's going to be better at giving us answers that are helpful. It's going to be making sure that we can do our jobs more effectively. As long as there's still a human signing off on the financial statements, though, there's going to want to be that rigor, and there's going to need to be that engagement and full auditability and an understanding of what decisions have been made. So I think we'll see this continued journey of automating sort of repetitive manual tasks, while at the same time still providing that overview that the human that's in charge can make sure that things are going in the right way. I mean, the reality is that the challenges that the businesses have are not themselves changing. So these solutions are all about continuing to do a better job at making the end user, the customer's life better and easier at achieving those goals. So in some ways, all of you actually have a big say in where this technology will go. The one thing I do see happening right now, and again, it's changing so quickly, but the idea of data being critical, the best AI is based upon the best data, and you need the best data for the most complete data set. And what we're seeing with these front-end tools that are in essence are allowing very rapid generation of experiences that consumerize what would previously have been, or still are today, very complex, sort of technical workflows inside businesses. And so whether that be natural language or very simplified forms that you access on your phone from a remote location, or something that's specific to that use case, that's already happening. So I think that we'll see even more of that powered by the kinds of tools that we're seeing from Anthropic and Perplexity and other front-end AI solutions.
One thing that you said, Scott, that I want to come back to that I hope happens is that we get rid of buzzwords. So you're talking about some of the nomenclature that's used in the industry. It's getting pretty irritating now. It's all the different buzzwords. Even just for AI, you've got 50 different buzzwords used there. But no, it's good. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time here to share your thoughts. No fights broke out. That's a first. Usually someone ends up with blood
On
on.
the contrary.
I think I'm with the right outfit for that anyway. So.
Right. Well, thank you. Let's thank the panelists here for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.